Futures and options on futures trading involve substantial risk and is not a suitable investment for all types of investors. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future results. When I use the word I in this video, it refers to what I teach in my charting course or what I author in my twice daily oral and written updates. Prices shown on charts and quote boards are in real time and take into account all known activity up to this point in time. And if you'd like to read more of this disclaimer, simply hit the pause key on your video player.
Good weekend, everyone. Ira Epstein of Linn & Associates with your metals market update for the weekend edition. And this is Friday, May 18th, 2018, and we're about 2:20 in the afternoon. And I can already tell you, this is approximately where the gold and the silver markets have finished. Most of the markets got very quiet as we got past 1:30 today, and I figured why not just put this out, we're that quiet. You can see that you've still got the dollar up, putting pressure on most metals. The gold did get a bit of a bounce today, and silver's pretty close to unchanged. Most of the currency markets, a little waffling here, but the dollar has beaten them up all week. A little bit of profit taking on the energies taking place as well, and the grains had a good bounce to them today. Now, what we do in the weekend edition is we don't cover the daily charts. We instead take one monthly chart, and we start with the gold, take a look at the really long picture. People have asked me, and I get it all the time, Ira, would you recommend I trade off of a monthly chart? And I go, no, I wouldn't. I think it's great to look at for a big picture. It's a warning signs. Look at all this sideways action gold has done. It has been basically going sideways since right here, 2015. We've had more attempts to go higher than we had to react back into the 2015 lows. So to me, the obvious part is the market has tried to go up. Has it succeeded? No. Every time it's gotten in the past up to the Bollinger Band, the black dashed line, and the green line, which is the 100-month moving average of closes, it's run into serious resistance. Can it break away and trend? Take a look. You know it can do it. Can it trend down? Yes. It's not what it's doing right now. That's the most important thing. So the longer a market goes sideways, eventually the breakout is a monster. Is it up or down is what you have to figure out. And right now, it is not narrowing in rather dramatically. It's just comfortable sort of staying right here. Caught with the top, let's call it in the 1360s, the upper Bollinger Band, 1351, the 100-week average of closes, and support back hasn't quite hit it yet at 1275.30, the 18-week average. The lower chart is momentum. Momentum often leads price action. Just take a look here. When you finally broke out, you went up. You see it how it did it there. When you topped here, momentum was going with it. Momentum is pointing down. So at this point in time, I'm not saying gold can't go higher. It is got upside bias since it's over the 18-week average, but it's not trending. It's sort of lollydolling. In the weekly chart, we start getting better pictures. And this chart looks different because it's an area chart. It's purely of the last price on a daily basis. Because we're still trading, it's going to move right here. But you can see you've gone from 1350, 320 down to this number. You might ask, why didn't I pick that number? Because when the market came back, it's from this high that it made the new low. And that's what I consider. So we've had approximately a $60 break in the gold market. The bias is down because the market has gotten under and stayed under on a weekly basis the 18-week average of closes. I then move to the 18-week bar chart. Each bar represents a full action of week. You've got lower highs, lower lows. Where I went to school, that's called a trend. And that's a downtrend unless the market comes back and takes out the most current high, which is 1326.30. Notice that the market, once it got under the 18-week average for the past 4 weeks now, hasn't been able to get back over it. What's the next target if the market wants to drop down here? Well, the 100-week average, it's the 100-week average at 1277.40, which ties together with that monthly chart that we just saw. So the 1275 area seems to be an important zone. I put on the 200-week just so you can see where it's coming in on the chart as well. Bollinger Bands are these black dashed lines. It is an algorithm designed to keep the market trading within the bands 95% of the time. Now, there's several ways to look at these bands. If you go to John Bollinger's site, there's ways that you play with running the bands. That's called running the band. There's times when the market just goes plain sideways, like it did here, and then as the band breaks out, you're trying to catch the trend. Right here, we have flip-flopped. The market is trying to break out of the band to the downside. Let's assume it finishes the week at 1293. The band is 1298.10, so it's under it. That puts the next support level, if the market's going to drop down, at the 100-week average. Where's the resistance in the market? Back up at the 1328.40 level, the 100-week average of closes. What about momentum? Momentum is pointing down. I don't consider momentum on a weekly chart in terms of overbought or oversold. I use that for daily charts. The more I've worked with these charts, and I've been doing this since 1969, so I'm not a newcomer at this, I've learned a few tricks. In the weekly charts, I look at as raw momentum in the market, not the overbought, oversold. So I'm looking at a market with a downtrend on a weekly chart, downside bias, under the Bollinger Band. Only 5% of the time will the market stay above or below a Bollinger Band. But that still leaves 4% as my rule of thumb. Each consecutive close under a Bollinger Band, I count as one of those points. Because it's the first time this week, it leaves me with 4%. Will the market use that to work down? Don't know, but I know that I would expect to see some support come in. When I come to GLD, the popular ETF, I've got the same thing. I've got the lower highs, lower lows, next support, the 100-week average at 121.58, momentum pointing down, this week's low 122.01. When I come to GDX, the gold miner stock, this has held up a heck of a lot better than the bullion itself, either in the ETF form or the futures. The market has a pattern of, if we look at it, higher lows and lower highs. So it's a difficult one right here. It's under the 18-week average, so I'm going to say the bias is down. It has been stuck at this 18-week average for a very long time, and this is what you call sideways, very much so. So let's assume the market gets over this number right here, 2306, gets itself back up. All right, it still has two layers of resistance, the 100-week average, 2350, and then the upper Bollinger Band. Should it break down from here, the 2090 level? Momentum is not telling you anything. It's just drifting sideways. It's not going anywhere. The silver chart keeps bringing in on the weekly chart the slow stochastic numbers, the Bollinger Band numbers, narrower and narrower. If this market gets over last week's high, what it can do is negate the downtrend and start an uptrend. What number do you think the bears are going to defend? I say they're going to defend 1658.50, the 18-week average. If you get over 1672, you could end up, if the market doesn't break any further in the week, next week, higher lows, higher highs, putting a challenge potentially for the upper Bollinger Band and the 100-week average. Who has control of the market right now? The bears do. You've got lower highs, lower lows. They're in control. Momentum is flat, but the bias is down. So right now, market is still in the bear camp. In the copper market, we have a funny pattern. We have a market that's got higher lows and certainly higher highs. However, it has been unable to close over the 18-week average of closes. When you get the trend up and the bias down, since you're under that, I count that the two negate each other. And it means you have nothing. And momentum is telling you you have nothing. You're just sort of drifting right here. Not much to do there. The platinum market's in a downtrend, and it has hit a downside target, or has it? Look at the lower Bollinger Band. You always have to look at the number, 881.20. This number, right through here, the low there is 874.60. We're knocking on the door as you did last time. The trend down, the bias is still down, and momentum. This market is still very much in the bear camp. The dollar index got 1 week over. Now, let's walk you through this so you see it. 1 week over the Bollinger Band top, and you had higher lows, higher highs. Now remember, only 5% of the time do you stay over that number. So the week after, what the market did is it slips back to 92.41, back under the Bollinger Band top. And this week, right back over it. That's what you call riding the Bollinger Band, and that is bullish action. The 200-week moving average of closes is this gray line. I would expect that to be a resistance. The first challenge of it will surprise me if we don't get some resistance up there. That's what I'm looking for, at least. Momentum up, trend up, bias up. This is a market that has been the enemy of the metals. I wrote a silver report, and I covered in at great detail the sideways action that you're seeing in the silver with some option thoughts on it as to how to play the market if it breaks out of either side. Often I'll write on different parts of these markets. I haven't done a silver report in years. So this is the first one. I thought it was fairly important. You'll be able to see how this all works. It's really simple. Call my staff. You can go on our website. You'll see metal reports. Sign up for it. We'll make sure we send you the link and everything you need so you can read it. You can click up here if you want to get into our free offerings. Take you right to the page or under us. On many websites says click here for Ira's free offerings. I'm Ira Epstein. You have a great day, and I'll talk to you all Monday.